Thanks, Will. As Ian winds its way north, now the entire South Carolina coast is under a hurricane warning. Let's bring in South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Congresswoman, thanks so much for being with us. The word from Florida preceding you with this storm, Senator Scott and Rubio say that their coordination with FEMA so far has been the best it has ever been in their experience. How do you feel about the response from the Biden administration so far, and what are you prepping for there?
So far, I think the response has been good. What we've seen in Florida is absolutely devastating. 2.6 million people without power right now. The images of homes floating in the water, the storm surge, is deeply troubling and scary for millions of people. Here in South Carolina, we've got a hurricane warning along the entire coast. We only have a few hours to prepare, whether it lands as a Cat 1 or a tropical storm. It doesn't really matter at this point because hurricane gusts of up to 80 miles per hour are expected. And when you have storm surge of 7 feet during high tide, there is going to be flooding. And already in some of the streets in downtown Charleston, you're seeing water start to form, and the next 30 hours are going to be critical for us. I spoke to Governor Henry McMaster a little bit ago. He's declared a state of emergency. Our Charleston County here in moments will also declare a state of emergency. Everyone is taking this storm seriously, as we have to. With Hurricane Irma, just a few years ago, it landed as a tropical storm, but it had devastating flooding consequences for portions of South Carolina's coast, and we've got to take it seriously.
You know, my first hurricane, Congresswoman, was Hurricane Hugo in Charleston in 1989, and the devastation brought by that. I mean, that's the last hurricane to really take a direct hit there on Charleston, and it seems to be in the bullseye right now. And since 1989, there's been so much development in the area, in Mount Pleasant and the whole Kiowa Island community, where there are billions of dollars of real estate, and Folly Beach and Sullivan's Island was rebuilt and the Isle of Palms was rebuilt. What's the potential for damage along the coastline now that has been built up so much? Because it was believed after Hurricane Hugo that the Gulf Stream was taking all of these hurricanes away from places like Hilton Head Island and Kiowa and Charleston. But now you're kind of in the bullseye.
We are in the bullseye on this one tomorrow, which is why the next 36 hours are so critical and so important. When you go inland and with the wind gusts that we're expected to have, the pine trees that come out of the ground, the water that will flood homes and flood the streets. Residents here in Charleston and Beaufort and the areas that you just mentioned only have a few hours left to move their vehicles to higher ground. After 5 o'clock today, Charleston will have parking garages open for free. You still have some time to get sandbags. I'm encouraging everyone in Charleston and along the coast to call on their neighbors, reach out to folks, especially if they're elderly, if they need help bringing furniture inside or moving their vehicles. I actually sent my kids out a little bit ago to help their grandparents prepare for the storm that's coming tomorrow. We all need to take it seriously. I want to thank Governor McMaster. I also want to let people know that there are 2 websites where they can get information and follow the storm for South Carolina's entire coast. The first one is hurricane.sc, where you can get information there. And then on our website at mace.house.gov, we have information on where to get sandbags, information for local resources, where the shelters are. We have 3 shelters open right now, and how to follow the storm and how to best prepare in the next few hours, because we only have a little bit of time before it hits us tomorrow.
Congresswoman, Governor DeSantis asked President Biden to grant FEMA the special authorization to do cost sharing with the state of Florida in the aftermath. That's now been granted. Is your state considering making a similar request, or have you done so already?
I haven't talked to the governor about that yet. I think for us in our state right now, we're monitoring the storm and determining how bad it will be tomorrow. If it goes a little more east rather than north and east, we might be in a better spot. I think it'll determine when it hits. Is it going to be high tide? The kind of damage that is potential could be millions of dollars, more or less. I think it'll depend on what kind of damage we get based on the storm surge that we're expecting tomorrow.
All right. So far, are you satisfied with what you've been seeing from the federal government? I asked John Kirby this question a little while ago, in that after Hurricane Andrew, there were a lot of complaints that the federal response was lagging. Hurricane Katrina, we saw the same thing. We all remember the Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job, quote from President Bush, and it turned out that he wasn't doing much of a job at all. Are you satisfied with what you're hearing from the Biden administration and the federal government so far?
So far, I am satisfied. If you look at what Governor DeSantis, his press conference he just had, this is one of the most devastating storms ever to hit Florida. And to have his leadership down there working with the Biden administration, working with FEMA, making sure that everybody has a voice. And we've done similar here in having the open line of communication with the governor's office. I've spoken to almost every mayor and local official, our sheriffs, our police departments. They're coordinating with FEMA as well. Everyone is working together as they should. Unfortunately, South Carolina, as you mentioned, John, is no stranger to storms, and we stand here ready and prepared to help anyone in need.
Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We wish you all the best going into the coming days and weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. We hope it's not too bad there.